Bienvenidos a Disrupt Everything, podcast series by Isra García. Reinvéntate a ti mismo y cambia lo que más te importa.
We are on a dance. Part of this dance is to be here on this earth. This is something. This is a quote I extracted from our next guest, straight from Oregon. Right now, sweet medicine is a wisdom keeper and a teacher with 40 years of traditional ceremonial experience and native teachings. Sweet medicine is going to be our next guest here on Disrupt Everything podcast series, where we dissect, deconstruct, and present worldwide disruptors, ruckus makers, people who are changing the status quo, people that with their gifts, their art, are changing the things that matters. That's in pure essence disruption, where in theory people think that is impossible, but then in the practicity, people come and demonstrate that it's possible. This is the essence of a revolution. It destroys perfect and enables impossible. So, Sweet Medicine here in Disrupt Everything podcast series. Sweet, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Isra. I appreciate your words and your sentiment about those of us that take the side road and find our path.
So let's go to the intro, and now Sweet Medicine and Disrupt Everything podcast series.
Disrupt Everything. Explora los márgenes o muere intentándolo.
Sweet Medicine Nation is a gifted artist, educator, lecturer, and a medicine teacher, and a guide. With her eloquence, wisdom, and gifts, she's dedicated her life to offering opportunities for people to experience conscious and deep connection with nature and spirit through indigenous education and ceremony. As a medicine person and teacher, she awakens within us the original and sacred values as earth guardians, honoring the natural ways for benefiting all beings on Mother Earth. Over 35 years, she's assisting thousands of people through rites of passage, ceremonies on 5 continents, rekindling the holy on Mother Earth, our birthright. Sweet Medicine is involved for over 20 years in numerous local and international organizations and agencies protecting endangered species, water issues, and education worldwide. Water is sacred. Without it, there is no life. With her wise woman guidance, she offers powerful and useful tools for contemporary lives. These tools and accompanying ceremonies are for revising, repurposing, and reclaiming our lives in this new era of the divine feminine. Her passion for plants, both edible and medicinal, continues her love for communing with nature and these feelers on our mother. She applies her background in natural medicine, midwifery, and herbs, along with her written articles and books based on medicinal and edible native plants. Also complements her heritage and love of sharing natural knowledge. She is the founder and president of the Four Winds Community Foundation in Oregon for over 17 years. Four Winds Foundation is dedicated to the spiritual evolution of humanity, offering indigenous wisdom through sacred rites, ceremonies, and education to bring life back to all of us. This is another quote I highlight from the work Sweet is done and is doing. And she says, I assist those longing for a deeper connection to the sacred by nurturing and guiding them through rites of Passage. Sweet, what a wonderful work. What a wonderful journey. Thanks again and welcome again to the Disrupt Everything podcast series.
Thank you very, very much, and to your community at large, our community at large in this world.
Sweet, with this, may I address you sweet or sweet medicine or?
Just call me sweetie.
Sweetie, okay. So sweet, sweetie. With this amazing experience and over 4 decades working on ceremonies, with herbs, with medicine, with guides, rites, what would you say if I ask you to put your life in a timeline and highlights the most important and impactful milestones?
Okay. I think the most powerful moments of my life that really gave me, in reflection, of course, looking back, is that at around 5, I can remember having people show up at night for me and illuminate my bedroom and talk to me. So that started then. And then I started healing people by just touching them and making them feel good. You know, I don't know if I healed a disease or anything, but I remember and hear it still as my aunties and uncles saying, yes, we'd ask you to just touch somebody who was feeling bad and they seem to feel better. So that started some things. But then from 5 on until I was maybe sexually active, I had all my dreams were work. And what I mean by work is I met with indigenous people of multiple cultures. Or should I say, I didn't even know the cultures in this reality, but I am a dreamer. So what that means is that I can transition and remember into the subconscious, or what we call another plane, and I would learn. So many times, even in high school, junior highs, lower grades, I would tell my mother in the morning, I'm so exhausted from last night. I worked so hard, but they didn't understand what I was saying. And I never described it because it wasn't comfortable for my parents for me to share what I knew. And so I learned to be silent. And if it didn't fit into Christianity, then it was something not okay. But I still knew that it was all right. So I learned many processes. I recognized many things I had done, I'll say, maybe in other lifetimes. And I was very fluent in many languages, which I wish today I was, because it's so frustrating not to be able to speak Portuguese or Spanish or, whatever language I need to. So at that very important age of 14, 15, my parents moved me from the main states to Hawaii. And in Hawaii, I studied physically with the Hawaiian elders there. They just found me. So this was another commonality. And at 15, I drowned. This created a huge initiation for me, not realizing it at the time, which I kept secret from my parents because I was resuscitated. My parents don't swim. They would have been afraid, and they were very controlling of me being the only girl. So my experience was to drown and not tell them till I was 33. But wow. Anyway, what happened during that awakening, to come back, what I realized is how fearful we are of dying and how powerful the desire to live is. And I didn't think about it then, but later in my life, I thought we struggle so much to stay alive that we'll hold on to the last moment. But then I also reflected on the fact that when we do die, it's fast and there's no pain. So that was one experience of never being afraid of the ocean after that, and realizing there is something greater than me. There was a voice, and there was comforting, and there was, well, just like everybody who's ever gone to the other side and come back, you see all your relatives, you know everybody, and then they say, sorry, you can't stay, it's not time. And to hold all that inside of myself was very hard. So I had elders that just found me, Hawaiian people who shared their knowledge with me, their experience, and what their thoughts were. So I did that until I was 19, and then I moved to back to the main continent, and not realizing I really loved Hawaii, and I didn't understand the grief I was feeling. I'd never felt grief before. And grief is very important. We need to also experience it to be able to live fully. So that said, I lost my first child at 17, and I hadn't grieved. So this was very interesting to me. And I looked at that when my son was born. I was 19, and then my daughter at 21. And I saw that I wanted more for them than I had about our roots. So to my auntie, who said, oh, you're Chickasaw Choctaw. We have native blood. And I'd always felt it, but I didn't know it for sure. So that started my quest. I have visitations. They're not all the time. They're not like I can just call on them, but when they come, they've always been at a moment of a crisis in my life to reassure me, to heal me, to say, keep going. So I've been pronounced dead 4 times in my life, and I am still here. So I don't know if I have 9 lives like a cat, but just to say, I met very unusual way. I met a grandfather teacher through a woman who gave me a phone number. I knew that it was impactful when she said she was a bookstore attendant. She just goes, you'll want to call the person in this number. She didn't know me. I didn't know her. So I hesitated for a couple of months, but every time I picked up the paper, I shook, like I knew there was something important. Eventually called this man, sounded like one of my relatives, because my father was raised in Oklahoma, which is Indian territory of the Trail of Tears. And I knew that he was somebody going to be impactful, which he was. He was Choctaw, and he taught me the ceremonies and the ways. Then I met David Carson, who did that with James Nams, did the medicine cards, and he was a pipe carrier of our tribe. In the meantime, I married a Lakota elder, learned all of those ways, which was totally different than my ways, which was, my tribe is very matriarchic. So it's the women are the chiefs and they make the rules, and the men then are the chiefs that enforce them within the community and ceremonies. And then here I was in a patriarchic family with very rigid, dogmatic ways, and learning that. So those elders and fathers adopted me, which I thought was very uncommon, didn't understand it until, later. But knowing now that Spirit wanted me to learn these other languages that I desired, and to see the contrast between the patriarchic cultures and the matriarch cultures. So just to move ahead, I've gone from herbology, owning my own herb store, selling formulas and helping people in the natural way, because I had comas from regular medicines, pharmaceutical. I couldn't do them even today. And then I studied homeopathy, set up urgency care clinics, became a midwife, then moved on to become a practitioner. So I did that till I was 60. And in the same time of all of that, kind of to the side, staying more quiet other than into my own groups of people who sought me out, I didn't incorporate my spirituality, which is something that we tend to do. And so in my private time, I would do ceremonies and I do these other things away from my family. And then as my children got older, I started incorporating them. But for some reason, it was difficult to do the two together. And that was maybe inside of me. And maybe it was also a cultural thing. So I look at how we divide ourselves. Oh, this is my spirituality, and this is how I make money and I live, and this is my belief systems, but then I'm doing this other thing out in the world. And then a crisis came in a horseback accident, and I was pronounced dead for 20 minutes. And I hovered above this scene and watched it all and realized that we have empathy, that empathy is a soul's way of knowing grace. And that whole time was profound in my life to the point I felt like I was born again. And I was telling the world. I got to have plants talk to me and explain, like cannabis and ayahuasca and mushrooms, things that I'd never even really paid much attention to. But culturally, I was with the people in ceremonies. I became a grandmother of indigenous ways of being. And I have to say that it was really a profound moment for me to be with all these other elders who had similar stories to me. So it got me to have more courage to be able to speak to the issue of what was within me, a decision that I had to come up with about how do I incorporate all of this. Yeah. So for me, the spirit giving me life multiple times, letting me see how easy it is to transition, and then the depth of why are we here, and why was I here, and why wasn't I just taken off, right? So that became an internal boiling pot to answer that question. Why is it that I keep going into these death states and then you bring me back? Those states, the human soul experienced something, but at the same time, the ancient being that I have been, whether man or woman, who knows, in these different times, because I've seen myself as both, I am a bridge. I am a translator. I am a connector. And I guess some way I'm a revolutionist, because at the spiritual level, there is no limitation. It's all the same language. We just have different dogmatic pathways. My Lakota father said, the road is wide and it is a rainbow, and it requires us to realize and realign that we are not limited. And that my elders would say, we have within us all the tools we will ever need. We have the recognition of all the guardians and the guides and the totem beings of many cultures represent the holy will always receive us. And I found that once I started becoming a international congresswoman of the indigenous, which seems odd for me because I'm a mixed blood. I'm Indian blood, but I'm French and I'm Irish as well. So I have this chemistry that's a mix. And why is it in this body, in a woman's body, which is even more uncommon, all the chiefs are men, would I be asked to be a chief? So my parents thought I should be at home with my children and husband, and I was being called to go international. So I went to Europe thinking I will go to Europe more, but then all of a sudden it became the Americas. And oh boy, I wish I had learned Spanish in school instead of French. So it's like I started seeing how spirit gave me a pathway and how random we go, and there's no mistakes. There is no limitation to our ability to foster, to really address, because what we need we'll find, even if we were not looking for it. So for me, the journey has been look deeper. Remember, you're more than this physical body. You are a ball of light. And to bring it current to right now, we're in what indigenous people call, starting on the 21st of June, the Woodpecker Moon. And the Woodpecker Moon means we're in a canoe going on a journey with a jaguar shapeshifter guardian of ours and an alligator who helps us to heal and to dive deep into the emotional and celebratory time, because this is high ceremony for us. In the Northern Hemisphere, Orion's belt dictates that this is high ceremony. We are conduits of light. It's a time to call forth the light. I incorporate both of the teachers that taught me over many decades now. I think I started really studying it seriously at 24. I'm 73 now. And what I find is I want to teach the world. So the pandemic came and I was trapped in Brazil, Sao Paulo. And I had thought, I'm going to be here for years if this continues. And the beauty of the movement of everything was that I had this beautiful opportunity to say, what is this all about? What do you want me to do next? And what came was, in the night, in a dream, something told me to buy Zoom. Now, you have to understand, in the United States, Zoom was a cereal in the 1960s or 70s. I can't eat wheat, so I never got to eat it, but it was a commercial. And I heard buy Zoom and it woke me up out of my dream. So I went into the bathroom and I heard buy Zoom, and I thought it was the kids were up watching a movie. So I thought, oh, it's just a movie background. But by breakfast, when they were laughing at me going, no, sweetie, Zoom is a communication system. It's how we're going to go to college while we're in pandemic. And I said, well, it said buy Zoom. I mean, I don't understand. Well, you can buy it, but it's free. They were explaining it to me. So I knew nothing about Zoom. And then I didn't know anything about Instagram. I had an account due to some young women Spirit Weaver gathering, which I'm the grandmother of. And they said, give me your phone. And they put it on there, but I never used it. So then the people there in Brazil said, let's go on and tell the world what you're telling us at breakfast and at dinner. This is profound. So I did my first live explaining that we are in the greatest vision quest of our time globally. We are seeking answers, and we are in an ordeal that requires us to fast from all of the things we are used to put us into a state of, like in an altar of vision quest, you can't leave it. You have to stay there for 4 days and 4 nights. Well, it looks like it's longer than 4 days and 4 nights.
Love it.
The ordeal for us, I think, is really to look at when I step outside of my normal world. Normal is the word I put in, in a big broadness here. The norm is not going to ever happen again. We are at the answer to all of our ancestral prayers. We say to pray forward 7 generations, because what we do right now is going to affect them. But we are the 8th generation when we recycle. So we're preparing for ourselves into the infinity of the 8. So here we are on our journey in the canoe with our guardians that will help us to shapeshift, to be able to go deep and heal our emotional grief and our traumas that we've had throughout history, repeating the same stupidity, wanting to control, forcing another language on a people, hiding that we're really mad. So we're projecting all of our anger onto this other culture to be like us. Oh, golly. Anyway, so here we are to break those patterns. And we're questing, which is so beautiful in this divine feminine era that we're in for 2,000 years. How do we reinvent the world system? How do we reinvent humankind? Are we better than the animals, birds, stones, plants? The question is a deep one, and it's contemplative, and we don't seem to think we have the answers other than going back to the old system, and we can't. It will be broken up. We're going to see that. So Zoom maybe is a new answer. Instagram maybe is a new answer. So I give thanks for the invention. My grandfather would say to me over and over, we create these objects outside of ourselves that have the magical properties because we have forgotten internally that we can do it without them. And when he spoke that to me, I was truly impressed about inner feelings of my own knowing that I had no one else to substantiate that. I knew I could because I saw these beings that came to me and they spoke to me and gave me teachings. I had these dreams that were constantly in some other realm. I could manifest myself in somebody else's bedroom and say hello to them. And they'd say, hey, don't come in the night in our bedroom. It's very disruptive, and things like I didn't understand, but now I do. So if I were to say the timeline, this moment right here, right now, with you, with all of those who are listening, we have an opportunity. And I am grateful for this woodpecker moon because red is a holy color. And most woodpeckers have a red head, a hammerhead. I don't know what else you call these birds, but for us, they are rare. And I have 5 different kind here with their young, which is unheard of. So I know this year, pay attention that this is the beginning of something. And I appreciate this interview and this opportunity to share. It's time to change. And how can we change? What can I do at 70 years old? I'm an old woman, I thought, but no, I feel like I'm 40 and I'm not going to make myself old. I'm eternal. So what I realized, what was most important is what will I leave behind, like the elders that taught me. And that was then a big awakening ceremony for me to say, the knowledge that was given to me, I need to pass it on. That's what a lineage is. Do we follow dogma? No. But the wisdom is the golden path, and it doesn't limit anyone or any culture or any religious belief or pathway. It incorporates, includes, and is whole based on that. So I decided I can't travel, and I'm taking care of a mother that's now in her 90s. And I see that the only thing I can do at this moment with the pandemic as it is, with these restrictions, is to hone during my great global vision quest to pass on what I was taught to those who will go the course as I did, go the full length of understanding through indigenous eyes and recognize in their own souls the knowledge of truth. And we will bring back to this earth the garden. So, we can bloom the many flowers into one great tree of life. So that's what I'm here to do.
Sweetie, how can we walk this path? How can we evolve as whole and fullness with full spiritual human beings?
Good question. I think we're asking this question of many things. I think when we focus on the firstborn, which was the stone people, right? So when we get down, instead of just standing on our feet and saying, oh, Mother Earth, what do you have to teach me? To really get down on our mother. She's the most powerful medicine that we have, that without the gravity, we'd be just spun off this earth. We're going so fast. So I think there's a reason for us to anchor here and to be light. When I had my initiation, too many initiations to account, but the one big one was when they stood me up on the sacred spot. They said, we are all keys. Wherever we go, we turn the earth on. We turn the light on and it comes up through us. So through our eyes, our actions, and what we do or say, it affects an energetic at that level. So I say, okay, stone people, what do you have to teach me? More people are studying crystals and stones more. I mean, when I was young, nobody did this. I was selling crystals in my herb store and nobody knew what to do with them. And yet in my tribe, we used them to heal. Then I started asking the plants. I didn't smoke cannabis, but it was the first plant that came to me. And I started going around to high schools explaining to people that there's this plant it has two sides to it, like all plants. It can be poison or it can be a helper. And here's how we must look at these plants. So then I started paying attention to more plants, and not that I was partaking in it, but they would come and talk to me. And it was like, this is very strange, because now I feel like I need to tell these elders what they don't know. It's almost like correcting. And so I had a few moments of having to figure out how to do that. Then I went to the animals. I tracked very big animals, bears, mountain lions, small animals that were rare. I had wolves as pets. I mean, I've learned a lot being with the animals, and I see them and I know them. I tracked them for the National Forest Department. That was part of my job while I was moving to Central Oregon, and relocating my life over here on a sacred river called the Metolias. And they found me and they just said, we need you to go and track these animals for us. So I found myself in the forest alone with the animals, the trees, the stones, the rivers, and they became my teachers. It's hard to explain it because they look stationary and they don't look like they speak, but they do. And so what I've learned is, when we incorporate the last born is the human, the babies of the family, and we realize that we need to be still and observe, and we can ask and pose questions like, what do you have to teach me? What is important? Every morning I get up and I pray and I say, and what would you have me do today? And it just unfolds. But I trust my soul, not my humanity. My humanity has a wayward part of it, a wild part of it, and it wants to go against things. Sometimes it wants to do exactly what the rules are and it gets upset. But my soul, this small voice that when I get still, I can hear it and it guides me. I let it guide me. Now that at this stage of my life, I guess this is when you become an elder, is when you finally stop struggling against the course and you go with the flow. So I'm in my canoe. I'm ready to shape shift into what is next. I'm willing to listen and ride on. Alligators, aren't everywhere, or caiman, they aren't everywhere. But to my tribe, they are a horned serpent of light, and they represent a being who came from the Milky Way, because great mystery in the Choctaw tradition is a female, is not a male energy. We could almost say androgynous because it can create life, all the planets, all the stars, all the beings. And so for me, when I think about the great Ma, I think about that our little tiny system, that we are so minute but important. We are the belly button inside of her body. So this horned serpent is the length of her body. It is the jewels of her belt, the brilliance of her creation. And we all receive that. So I address that and say, bring on light, bring on the knowledge. So the quickest way I would say is be still, ground yourself in nature, listen, observe, and be patient. The greatest teacher is that. And then of course my apprentices go, oh my God, that was the greatest class. I love what you talked about. It stimulated this and that. So, I'm just doing what I'm called to do. And I'm doing it because as soon as we let go of the climbing of the corporate ladders and become part of the machine, we get off the train and we go for the walk and we slow down. This month is high ceremony. It requires us to be still, to slow down. When we slow down, we go at the speed of light, which sounds exactly the opposite. So incorporating that you are light first. You are the divine light first. That is not an ego thing. You cannot take it to the bank, at least not to the bank I go to. They won't accept any light into your account. But I know that through my seeding, like going out in the garden and seeding people to say, you're light. You are light. You're like a light bulb. Please turn that back on. Don't let anything turn it off. Keep your light switch on, and helping them to understand the natural way, the original law, not human law, but the natural law and your original gifts, primary. And they are what will teach you. Every one of us comes in with fingerprints. Your fingerprint is your soul's purpose and contract to be here from wherever you came from in the stars, to serve, to be an artist, to be a wisdom keeper, to be an attorney, or whatever way you're going to serve the earth. If we see we're here as an instrument, as a tool, as a ceremonial object, and we live our lives from that preciousness, whether it's a pipe or a fan or a feather that just falls out of the sky today, the leaf of every tree, slowing down, take the smudge bundle apart, use only one leaf, pick up one spoon, carry it with you, ask it to speak with you. Go to the water and put your hands and feet in and say, cleanse me, show me, teach me. I'm open to you. Looking at the sun, and right now the moon is incredible. Strawberry rose moon is just wow. And realizing we just came through a portal of eclipses. And it's time for us to go into high ceremony, go back into our holiness. So this is what I think, is to be still, to recognize your eternal. This is just one blip on the timeline of the universe. And what are we going to do with it? We're going to live the lie, or we're going to wake up. So I'm here to wake people up, to shake their bones inside of these bundles of flesh and say, in there is a soul, turn it on. It's time for it to come forward and not to be the last thing you think about. So stillness, patience, those are good things.
It's really, how was your first awakening experience, and how was the last, and how can we awaken in our daily life routine?
The first for me, well, there are many. There's so many in my timeline. I've done a timeline that's a straight line, the crisis in my life, and the high points, right? I think that an initiation is not always a pleasant thing. People want to fantasize about that.
I have another question about the initiation. Yes. So what means?
Okay.
But I want to finish with this first, like first, your last, and how can we awaken in our daily lives?
Okay. I think the most profoundest thing for me was watching a sunset it's hard to explain it. It's like the sunset actually became a sunrise inside of me. And that was after I drowned. And I was on the other side of, because on one side of the island, you get to see the sunrise. And on the other side of the island, you get to see the sunset. So when you're on an island, I love to go drive to the other side to watch it sunset. But what happened was coming across the ocean with nothing in between me and the horizon but water, I saw the sun stand up. It was like it was going down, but it stood up and came into me. I don't know how to, I recognized I was connected. And then from there, I was a mess. Emotionally, I felt like I was falling apart. I didn't understand why I was received back after drowning. I was keeping this secret from my family. I was afraid they wouldn't let me go to the ocean. Children, we are so immature of being able to be supported through. That was an initiation, a big one. And to realize that we live forever, that we are eternal, like Ra. The meaning in the Egyptian thinking is Ra is God. But what is God? That got me to question. I went to a temple like a week later. I got on a bus and went with my friend. We were in church, Christian church. She was Japanese and they have a different way of thinking. So she promised her grandmother to always go on Sunday to offer the incense at the Shinto shrine. She said, it's only 4 blocks away. We can get on a bus and we can get back here before church is over. Do you want to do it? And I was scared, but I went. And when I went, something happened to me. I saw this golden image and I was touched by it. And then I thought, oh, you can't bow down before this golden image. This is wrong. This is bad. But something of peace came over me. And I remembered the sun standing up. And something spoke to me internally that said, there is no wrong or right way. There's only one way. Remember the light. So in most of my initiations, I've been through 16 vision quests to be able to dance sun dance. I'm a sun dancer, a pipe carrier, ceremonialist in the Lakota way of doing things. And I am initiated in the House of Flowers and the Lodge of the Deer Men, which is women's ceremonies, men's ceremonies of initiation. We wake up to receive within the community, witnessing that we have the right to pass from here to the next level. If we don't have that, we are bankrupt. That there's any hope, that there's any spirit, that there's any forward going. I mean, success-wise, maybe yes. I've met multi-millionaire conglomerates who have no spirituality, and in one sweat lodge, they come out crying, giving up all their world stuff to go on a quest. One of those people was vice president of a very well-known in the United States television program, and he went out to all the way to Bhutan, became a helper there to do whatever, to just be a slave if that's what he needed to, and came back to Canada to be with the street kids to teach them enlightenment. I mean, changed his life after he met me. And that's just one story. So we all need to remember that nature is much more older than we are, that we think we know. No university can teach you spirituality. It's something that you learn through nature. So that's why I say my last initiation was standing. I was walking in the night with an ayahuasquero elder, was part of our Congress. He had come to share with us his way of life. That's what we all did, was share our ways of life together over a 15-day time. And he asked if we wanted to partake in his ceremony. And normally I said no, but I did say yes this one time. And he, so in the ceremony, he asked me if I wanted to drink this medicine. And I said no. And so he said, fine, you're still going to go with us. And he put it in his mouth and he blew it all over my body. And instantly I fell over and I went into this state with all of these jaguars, and they were educating me. They were beautiful. And so I can say I wasn't on the medicine, but it was all around me with his singing and his doctoring. And when 3 days later, we got to say goodbye to him. And he asked me if I had any questions. And I said, yes. I have a question about what I saw. And he goes, what you saw is who you are. And you doubt it still. Let's see, this was 20 years ago. And or 19 years ago, I guess now. And I said, I will not doubt. And he said, what they told you, what were they telling you? And so I told him, and he said, you did this for all the people who couldn't do it, and you will continue to do that. And if you don't remember that you're a wisdom keeper, that's why I say I'm a wisdom keeper. If you don't realize your bridge, a conduit, and you keep limiting yourself that you're a woman, then we'll all be lost. Your thread is golden. It needs to be in the weave or it will fall apart. Please show up. So I was like, oh my gosh, I was in Argentina and I like, okay, this is the biggest tango I will ever do. Yeah, I will do this. Okay, I will do this. So that started the quest of starting to teach. So for me, I would say today is ask, what is it that you have for me to do? I read people's soul purposes. So I read their fingerprints. It's not palmistry. It's very ancient and very old. It's not something that everybody knows how to do, but it's one of the things I can help people with to understand the power they came in with. Now, what I realize over this many years is that most people don't know how to get there. So then that's the next level, is to teach an indigenous perspective. I'm not the only teacher. I'm not the only way, but I'm just saying that this is just my way that I saw it, is that the greatest gift I have is joy inside of my own body. And when I help another person, I see their joy turn on, and I like to do it. So I've been doing that through Zoom. You know, it's bizarre, but it happens. I can do it internationally. So that my family and my family base is not limited to just Oregon. And I love that.
Yeah,
you were a big fan.
You were mentioning that you were having a meditation with Spain this morning.
This morning I was praying with Spain and Ireland, and I was with hundreds of people in Chile and South America, on and even Central America, in Guatemala and Mexico, on the day before yesterday. And the profoundness of the family is beautiful. So tomorrow I'm with you now again in Spain. So Spain has been a big one. And then tomorrow I am with people in Ireland. So there's a big connection. And what's interesting, if I may say, is that the other poignant thing happened to me, because I'm from a dreamer clan. I received within a dream, and I'm not talking about dreams like go to sleep and have your dream. I'm talking about an altered state without medicine, that I am instructed to do things. And it said, follow your traditional trade route. write to Smithsonian and get a $200,000 grant. And then when I woke up from that dream shaking, it was like shaking, like afraid, shaking in my body, I heard the voice again. So I knew that when that happens, I need to do this. So I called the Smithsonian. They say, no, we don't give grants, we receive them. And I said, well, I'm supposed to follow my trade route. Who can I talk to? Well, what is your original people? So I told, and so anyway, long and short, through many other serendipitous moments, I found out that Hawaii and many of the islands in the Pacific Ocean are the tops of mountains of Mu. And Mu is where the Chickasaw and Choctaw people originated from. Before Mu sunk, many of them went to Egypt and to Ireland to set up the grids for the continuation of the healing of the earth. And then many went across to South America, which wasn't far. So a New Zealander came out of the blue, asked to talk to a medicine woman. She never traveled from New Zealand, and she met up with me, and we both just sat and cried. She says, I'm here. I don't know you, but I know you. I'm supposed to tell you that your journey is a good one. You're doing exactly what you need to do. And we would not be in contact if you hadn't remembered that we came across from the Polynesian, we went across the Pacific to reignite in the highest place the mountains of Mu, and that you are truly one of those ancient ones. It was like my mother, I was just telling her this story the other day, that how I got these books from this woman. And but I know that these have, what would I call them? They're not serendipitous, but they are galvanizing. If you know that word, it bonded me that I am not just a little woman in a world of machines and this climb the corporate ladder and get more money and all of that. No, I have been poor a lot of my life because I chose not to do what others did. I gave away more of my being a doctor in the healing practice than most doctors do. I would prefer to heal people rather than to charge for it. So it's like, okay, this is what I do. And this is the initiations that help me. So what I again will say is you can take all the medicines, but if you're not ready for the initiation, then you will be abusing of the medicines, because they are teachers. It's like sitting before a guru for years and never becoming enlightened. We have direct contact with the source. And until we say, I'm ready, you're not going to be ready. So I try to help people to be ready. And that's what the elders did for me. They knew when I was ready, even if I didn't know. And even if I needed many, many, many initiations to prove to myself I was more than this body. So I'm an Aries, a little bit stubborn. So I know that I had to be proven that I had worth.
And what it means,
so,
and what it means to be initiated. What kinds of initiations are at our reach today, and what's the process and what's for?
Okay, so in some of the rites of passage would be to be named. When you are named, like the elders bring the eagle feather down in a high ceremony near what they call the tree of life, and they bring the name down from heaven, and they put it in you, and you're standing on a buffalo robe on the earth, and you feel it. For me, I instantly understood every Lakota word that was said. I wish that had stayed. That part didn't, but the name did, which is Wuo Tanlawion, which is sweet medicine nation. Translation is she who walks in the righteousness of the Father's light. So for me, that was profound in the naming, but usually a child is named, right? I was an adult. Then the next is to come into the initiation, the call of vision quest. It was meant for children.
This is how we get in touch.
This is
how we get in touch.
Yes. If we were indigenous and we were doing the rites of passage, then a child at that stage would be put out in nature for them to learn they have other relationships, not just to two-leggeds, not to the parents alone, but all the other relationships of animals and birds and plants. And they would go out to be with their creator for 4 days and 4 nights. And today, Vision Quest is people want to do. It's an ordeal. I don't think it's necessary in the same way that it was then, because we've lost our natural thinking. So, but Vision Quest is questing, and I think that we're in one right now. If we pay attention, we're in an ordeal. And it's a lie, but it's got us doing our work. Then the next initiation would be obviously for us in the Lakota tradition, it would be to dance, to go to the tree of life and give thanks for our life. Another rite of passage, whether you want it or not, is death of somebody close in your family who they're passed on the thread that they've brought along on. If it was healthy, obviously, they pass on their light to you to witness the return. Like, you know, some make it very spectacular. Quetzalcoatl, Montezuma changed into Quetzalcoatl and went back to the sun. Well, we do that, but you know, that's another topic. Anyway, then there's the carrying of this bundle of somebody that's crossed over for a year. There's the Yuwipi ceremony, the healing and doctoring ceremony. That's a rite of passage. There's the adoption ceremony, which is more rare today, where someone saves your life or does something incredible, like donates money when you're poor to you, you know, and you make them your relation. This was meant to happen. We are meant to remember brothers and sisters. And if we see that, there would be no war. So the first adoption ceremony was from two different tribesmen fighting each other to save the life of the other one, and made relations as brothers. And when you make relations in those ways, you cannot fight against that tribe forever. They're your brothers and sisters. So, you know, that's a beautiful one. I think we really need to incorporate a big time, because there's too much polarity of it's you that's wrong, and we've been fighting for centuries, and that's our land, and that's our whole stone. And it's craziness, right? Or who gives rights? White people are the only ones that have good knowledge. You know, we're looking at that in the United States, finding all those who were the children that were buried in the mass graves of the schools. And it's not just this continent. So look at that. Then the next one is, the next ceremony is the tossing of the ball, which is not done anymore. I think we're in the tossing of the ball, and that would be to the healing to be sent to the 4 quadrants of the universe. And it's a very sacred ceremony where a little girl who's been initiated, she has her name, but she's not initiated as a woman yet. She represents white buff calf woman in the Lakota tradition, and she tosses a big ball that is all beaded with the symbols of the 4 quadrants, guardians of the 4 directions, in the different directions of the people. And so someone catches it, and then they commit to taking healing back to their country. So this is something that's done. The other is a giveaway. What do we give away? What is our donation back? That spirit gives us life. Yesterday, an elder who was dear to me cross to the stars. And his daughter called me and said, you're in my father's will and testament. He wants to bequeath you these things. Can you come so I can give them to you? And I was thinking, wow, you know, there's the tossing of the ball to carry on what he let go of. So I have his pipe, drums, I have his medicine, I have the hat he wore, I have the ring he wore. It's like he's passing me, the giveaway is to pass on, you know, this legacy. Now, I don't know what that's going to feel like. So I'm staying open to show me, just asking spirit, show me. So these are rites of passage. For me, I think sitting in ceremony, even with a water ceremony, is profound. I do water ceremony, people are crying. I do cacao ceremonies, people are crying because their souls are opened. Their love, they're exuding love, they're exuding being embraced. So I know that the word kiksuya is a word I'm going to use here. It means to remember yourself. And I don't mean
this is one of the questions
just mentally.
Yes.
Yeah. The word kiksuya means to put back together who you truly are, not what you were told, which is a lie. You're not limited. Your flesh is not the end of you. Your soul goes on, your light goes on. It flies like a butterfly taking wing, you know, be transformed. So the rites of passage for me is to remember. So all along the pathway of these different rites to pass, give permission to go to the next level. Sometimes we self-initiate, that happens to people. You know, a lot of our elders from the reservations where they became alcoholics. It was through these rites of passage where elders just say, come on, you got to clean up, you know, and they supported them saying, yes, this is terrible how they're treating us as native people. We're the origin people here, but they're not recognizing that. They want us to be Europeans. They want us to be white. They want us to learn English. They want us to cut our hair, you know, all of these things that are sacred. To grow your hair long and to braid it. Oh, there's a whole language in that.
And
So
how can we remember? How can we know what we truly are?
I think setting aside time, being in wilderness, whether you walk, camp, or you just sit in a place for a few days, you know, eating minimally, and allowing yourself to dream and to walk around and look to see what nature gives you, will tune you in. This is why I call, we need to see with spirit eyes again. Need to see the natural order, because what has happened is within the static, I'll call it, within the speed, go, 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 go world, it takes us out of, it kind of stirs up like a blender the ingredients for spirit to thrive. It confuses and creates chaos. And when we're in chaos, it makes us fearful of where is the solid ground. But in nature, in beautiful places where water's flowing freely, where animals are still at before they're all gone because we're taking up their land and destroying their territories, poisoning our bees and butterflies. You know, it's like we're an endangered species. That's what we need to wake up to and remember that we have choice. We have opportunities to remember, and nature is the most beautiful place to go. One of my benefactors gave me diamonds, a sack of diamonds, and said, go to all the sources of water, go to the Alps, go to wherever there's a glacier, go to the cenotes, go to the springs, go to the rivers, and go to Oregon and throw these diamonds in as thank you to the blood that flows through our mother. That is now, of course, we buy bottled water. It's been capitalized on, right? Soon it will be oxygen. So understanding the elementals. There's a spirit in the air. There's a spirit in the water. Go talk to it. Give thanks to it. The other night when I was with all of the people in South America in the ceremony, I showed them. I walked to the water. I'm just right on a river here, and I offered them the water, the cedar and the tobacco. I offered my prayers, and I asked that the water will continue to flow, to be pure. So this is how we do things. We look at it as it's a living being, because that's what we want to be looked at. You know, children want to be loved. They'll do anything to get love. And we've done horrible things in the name of love to each other and to other countries. We need to delve back into we are love, and that nature can doctor and heal us as soon as we realize they're all alive. You know, my grandfather said, go downtown, go put your hands on those buildings. They're suffering for anybody to pay attention to them. And I'm going, what is he talking about? This is ridiculous. And he goes, where do you think they were made from? The steel. Where do you think the steel comes from? It's a living being that's been transformed. The cement, the bricks, you know, the wood, it's all still alive. Just because cut up doesn't mean it's gone. When your bones are found in the ground, you're still there, some part of you. Talk to the buildings, tell them you're here. What can you learn? Oh my gosh, it was such an amazing feeling for me. He was such a good teacher. Simple. Don't go home the same way every day, because you need to see options. You know, don't be the deer that's predictable to the predator. Find another way. And so look at different religions and see yourself in them. It's like, what? You know, it was so enlightening to me to not limit my understanding to being finite, but more inclusive. So the initiation for me, the most profound, is to realize I'm not this that speaks, but what's inside of me that illuminates me, that livens me, that gets me to feel happy. That when I look at the blue sky, I'm surrounded by 200 feet trees, these big pines, and the blue sky today, which is lovely, and the river blue that's flowing by. There are butterflies out in front of me and birds. This is my family. My human two-legged brothers and sisters, they are my family. And to forgive the differences, to see the commonality, and to remind each other that we are love, we are light, and belong to one big, beautiful being. So that's what I would say, that recognition of that, remembering that. I sit and pray every morning. I ask, what do you have for me to do today? And every night I give thanks for whatever happened in the day, what I learned from it. I recapitulate, if that's the word that you would use. In my tradition, we do that in forgiveness. I do cutting away ceremonies, which is to help people out of trauma. Whether you're a Vietnam vet, or you've been in a war of Iraq, or you have been raped as a child, or you've been abused in some way, including abusing yourself. There is true forgiveness, but all of it has to do with where we are in our mind and how we hold it or let go of it. So that's the healing processes.
Sweet.
So like I say,
Wonderfully said. You asked a lot of questions I had, so I didn't have to. This has been one of the most organic and synchronized interviews I ever done in this 172 episodes, 73 with this one, because you asked a lot of questions I was going to ask, but I just remained silent because you were, as you say, be still, be silent, just observe. So thank you for a lot of work and just being so conscious and so profound in the questions. I have two final questions. The last one is rapid fire questions. It's just I say a question and you say a word, basically.
Okay.
So first one, a word. Choose a word.
Surrender.
A feeling.
Joy.
A thought.
Silence.
A wish.
Wholeness.
A book.
A book. A book. I don't know. The 7 Sacred Rites.
A song.
Ishel.
A place.
Guatemala.
A gift.
Life.
An inspiration.
A flower.
A teacher.
Wind that goes before the dawn.
A learning.
A natural way to be.
A reminder.
Light.
And finally, a question.
What would you have me do?
And last question, what would you like to, if you were about to send a message to everyone who is listening this podcast, what would you love or what would you like to say?
Remember that you're not limited and eternal, that within you, you are the orbs of light. You didn't come here by chance. You're here to offer your service, your light, and your gifts to all humankind, animal kind, plant kind, stone kind, in all of our relations. Aha. Mitakuye.
Sweetie, thank you so much. Where people can find you?
You can find me on my website, which is www.sweetmedicine, like the kind the doctor gives you, nation, like the countries.com. You can also go and find me on Instagram in the same place. And if you'll just say podcast, when you request to be a friend, then I'll know that you connected with me through this. You can also go to Medicine Nation in Facebook and connect with me there. Or you could just write me, swtmedicine@gmail.com.
I'll make sure I put all the links in the show notes so people can find it. I will also put for Winds Foundation. I will put the links for the apprentice program, so people that is interested in work with you more closely and connect with you for guidance or ceremonies can know better what you can do for them, apart from what you say, which is amazingly said. And also we'll put all the contact details and the books and all the links that are linked to find you and hopefully work with you. That's me, for sure. For sure it's gonna happen. And
yes.
And thank you for the work you do. Thank you for making a ruckus, as we were saying before starting the podcast. And I hope we can get together anytime soon. Meanwhile, we stay in touch through email, through Zoom, and anyone who is listening to this podcast, reach out to her, reach out to Sweetie, because you will find more than what you hear. So that's the way. That's the way of making a ruckus, create a positive impact. And thank you for giving and sharing this time, this wisdom, these learnings, and thank you for sharing you and your soul and your heart. And the whole you. Thank you. We appreciate and we honor that and we respect.
Thank you so much for this opportunity with your family that listens. And I know everything that happens in my world is serendipitous. It's meant to happen. Our roads cross. I do invite everyone. I do apprenticeship programs, and apprenticeship to me is a commitment to learn and to walk the medicine, to be the medicine. So you've helped me to touch thousands of people today. I am eternally grateful. And I also honor you in the abundance of planting the seeds all over. Thank you so much today for this precious moment and very short time, but poignant in feeling your presence and all of those that hear us today. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, sweetie. And I'm gonna finish with something that really captivated me when I hear it. We are the books, we are the tablets, it's in each of us. So go and disrupt yourself, because if you don't disrupt yourself, you'll be disrupted. And this will be more painful than doing it by yourself, on yourself. This is Sweet Medicine Nation in the Disrupt Everything podcast series, working and doing the work that matters.
Esto ha sido Disrupt Everything by Isla García. Encuentra el riesgo antes de que el riesgo te encuentre a